Well, hey, this is James Riley.
And Beth Riley.
And this is another great edition of our Artist Spotlight podcast series. Beth, who we have today?
Today we have Israel's ambassador of the blues, Mr. Andy Watts.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Obviously, we're all dealing with this crazy worldwide pandemic. Tell us about how you're spending your time while we figure out what's going on.
Well, that's a good question. I think that's a good way to describe it. We're all trying to figure out what's really going on. I made my last live show with a band on the 11th of March, 2020, and pretty much going from one lockdown to another. And it seems, just announcing today on the television, that we're going to full lockdown in Israel again starting Thursday night, even though they started vaccination. I've been pretty busy with the release of my latest album, Supergroup, on Wiston Boga, so that I kept me very busy to promote, and that's been an awesome ride so far. And meanwhile, I also been very busy writing new material and new songs and new music for my next album, which I probably will release after this is Beyond Us, whenever that's going to be.
Yeah.
So let's be hopeful.
You had mentioned the vaccine going around. Is that something that you would actually do? Would you get vaccinated?
It's like a rock and a hard place. The question was more scary. The sickness or the vaccine? It seems to me that this is like a global thing. It's a very democratic virus, affecting everybody, every corner of the world. Sure, it's scary when you're a patient. I think if we let it run amok, maybe we'll have a mutation we can't deal with. I think in this case, I would go for the vaccination, and I trust the judgment of Pfizer, because Israel has ordered millions of Pfizer vaccinations, where you have to take the first one, wait 3 weeks and take the second one. I think you have to have faith and do it, and I think we have to somehow join forces and beat it. The only way we're going to beat it if we're all working and striving in the same direction that we really want to get rid of it.
Sure.
And then we have to send a big bill to whatever that's going to be, the source of this.
Yeah.
That was a health minute with the Rileys and Andy Watts. Now let's get to the real reason.
that's the healthy part. Now we're talking the health of the blues. We all want to stay healthy, because the more healthy or the more creative we're going to be. And I wish for everyone to be healthy and stay safe.
That's right. Now let's get to the real reason that we're talking to you today, the blues. When did you first start playing the blues?
As a young 12-year-old kid, tuning in on the radio station, American radio station that is, listening to Albert King, Albert Collins, Freddie King, Johnny Hooker, Candy, Hendrix, Peter Green too, by the way, was a big influence of mine. The blues just got me into the system, and it's been there ever since. That made me pick up a six-string, a guitar, and a friend of mine showed me basic chords. It was a Baker stud, and the rest I taught by myself. I never took lessons, and I don't read music. I'm not proud of that, but it made me maybe develop my own style, and I'm sure I break many rules in music, but it works for me.
Now, you mentioned Peter Green. What are some of the other guitarists that have been a big influence for you?
I think that playing from early, I was more into sound and feel, and Albert King, wow, I was very influenced by him in the beginning, because he had a unique sound, unique approach, and really shows you that you don't less is more sometimes, which is sometimes hard to do live, because, sometimes you want to get carried away and run up and down the fretboard. Albert King, without a doubt. Hendrix, a big influence on me in the beginning. He still is. I think he's one of this once-in-a-generation kind of guy that comes along and changes things. Stevie Ray Vaughan also. Freddie King. And if I look into the real rockers, I also like very early 70s psychedelic rock. I think that James Gang from America is really the Led Zeppelin of America. Joe Walsh, I really like. Robin Trower. If you listen to my album, it's not really a category, put me in a category like Henrik said. It doesn't want to be put in a box. The album is a trip from blues rock and roll, psychedelic, soul, funk, jazzy. I like to somehow find the right mixture of that.
Yeah, all those blues seem to be kind of like a layer, when you start peeling back psychedelic and so many different things, it kind of all comes back to the blues.
Oh yeah, that's the source. That is the ground zero.
Yeah.
Start from there, and I think that's one of the things that we should do today when we try to bring in a younger audience. I think we have to have an open mind in the way that we want to package the blues and present it, because we need somehow to attract a younger audience to the blues, for the venues, for the sake of keeping the festivals, or for rejuvenating the blues. And I think we should not be afraid to take chances and to expand and fuse a little bit between the music. I think it's helpful.
What is the blues scene like in Israel pre-pandemic, of course, because now I'm sure there's not much of one?
Well, the blues scene is, has been thriving. One of the reasons, you remember I mentioned before, as ambassador of the blues, well, that's the thing that Blues and News magazine we see in the United States and California mentioned. The reason being, of course, that over the past 10 years, I've been busy bringing some of the best blues artists from the United States to Israel to perform with my band and to record with me. Purpose, of course, being to widen the audience in Israel, to expose the blues audience in Israel to some of the best blues music in the world. And I've been fortunate to have Jolie Walker 3 times over, a good friend of mine, many shows together. And rest in peace, Lucky Peterson twice, Johnny Winter, rest in peace, Bernard Allison, Rick Estrin, also performing on Super Groove on 2 tracks, and of course Kenny Neal had a great time. He's also co-producing the album. The blues scene has been great in Israel. Well, pretty much the night when the music died is basically when the corona took over, and that's the main thing at the moment. At the moment, there are no performances. There hasn't been anything basically since the 11th of March. We don't know when we are back in business. I guess if the vaccination program works and everything's going to be fine, and we have herd immunity, as they call it, let's be hopeful.
Absolutely. You had mentioned Kenny Neal, who co-produced your new album. What was it like working with him? I've actually had the pleasure of meeting him and interviewing him. He's a great guy. I know that, but I just want to know your thoughts of him.
Okay, so then I go. He was over about 14 months ago. Had a great time on stage, off stage, and he ended up co-producing the album. Oh, it was great. He gives a lot of freedom, and we had such a chemistry on the stage, and we were playing. And sometimes when you perform I performed with many artists over the years, and sometimes it's like you have this mindset. You're playing. It's like you have a conversation and dialogue without even needing to talk on the stage. And it was pretty much the same when we were doing the music. We had 3 great shows in Israel, and part of the Israel Blues experience is we're going up together after the show to Jerusalem, which is about 2,000 feet above sea level. So it's up in the mountains. And that's a very spiritual place for many, of course. And we were sitting having a drink, listening to some music that I had recorded. And he liked the concept of "Don't Take My Blues Away." Because I said, listen, Andy, everyone wants to get rid of the blues. And you're telling me now, don't take it away. What do you mean by that? I said, listen, there are a few things in life that are precious to you. You keep it close to you and don't give up on it. You must have faith in it, keep it. And he kind of liked the concept of that. And it started from there to develop. It's growing into the songs I have ready. He gave some advice to the songs we're going to do, and we were rolling from there.
Also on Super Groove, you had a track featuring Joe Louis Walker called Burning Deep, and I know he had played on a previous project too. What was it like working with Joe Louis Walker in the studio?
Oh, Joe is such a beautiful soul and an incredible blues artist, professional, and we had so many shows together over the years. He also did vocals on Blues on Fire, which of course was the title track of my previous album. I knew exactly when I wrote Burning Deep, which is basically the lyrics. When I write lyrics, I write gray. I don't write white. I don't write black. I write in a way that the listener can interpret it in any way that he hears it. That is always the right way. In one of the lines that I had there is something that reflects, unfortunately, that can happen in any relationship, is that you bring the best of the worst out of me, having your relation, personal, in your workplace. And Joe really liked that concept of the song. So I recorded it in Israel, did a guide on it. I added the horn section before to bring him the whole package. But I wanted him to get fired up, having the horn section on. So when he go into the studio, really going to belt it out and fired up. And I think he did a wonderful job with the vocals on Burning Deep on the album.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Burning Deep is something that, you've got a blues burning deep inside you. And I believe him. When I hear him singing that, I feel how he got it. And he really lived into it. And he did his own way, He added things there that I didn't. I never had to tell Joe not to sing how to sing Blues on Fire, how to sing Burning Deep. I am a big fan and favor of giving your fellow musicians artistic freedom. That's why on the album, I, as much as I can, add a baritone solo, add the trumpet, bring out the B3 to give variety, because I'm a firm believer that when you're on the stage, it's better to leave the audience hungry for more than being happy that you're just closing your amp.
Yeah.
It's better. I think it's better that way. And I think I'm a very lucky guy that I'm performing with a 9-piece band. That's a big family to take on the road. It's also a blessing. There's something that I got inspired from Albert King, Freddie King, Albert Collins. You have a wall of sound. You can play what you want, when you want, how you want it. You have baritone saxophone, trombone, trumpet, B3 Hammond, bass, drums, 2 vocals with you. You can do whatever you want. And that's big freedom. That's the reason that I'm using them on the band, because what you hear on the album, that's how I do my live shows. There's nothing in between. What you hear on the album, that's how it sounds live.
Now, you have worked with a whole lot of artists over the years. Is there an artist that you wish you could work with that you haven't had the chance to yet?
Oh, that was a good question. We'd be very happy to work with Eric Gales, if I would have the opportunity to play with him, or with Joe Bonamassa. I would like to have, because he's been in Israel many times, and maybe next time around I will catch up with him. I think that it would be a blessing to play with another fantastic guitarist, Kenny Neal, and I will be looking forward to be able to play maybe sometimes with Samantha Fish. I think she is great to have females that know to come up in high heels and with an attitude to sing and to play the blues. I think that's absolutely charming.
We talk a lot about we could have a time machine. I think we're just old souls, perhaps born in the wrong decade. if you
I hear you. We're analog guys lost in a digital world. That's what we are.
Oh, yeah. Well, now, if you had an opportunity to go into a time machine and go back to any time period, is there one that you'd go back to?
I think it's when you're looking at the golden years. I happen to be into cars, guitars, and of course, I only play Fenders and Gibsons, and I love American cars from the 50s. I think that if there is an era, I think also because of the innocence. Because you're looking at the 50s, you have these colors and everything is looking more innocent. I'm sure they had also their share of things to deal with today. They didn't have Corona maybe at that time, but other things. But I would love to be starting my career around middle of the 50s and just go through the end of the 50s and 60s and to experience this evolution of things, the evolution of sound in the music, of the electrifying of the guitar, of the biggest stages, how everything just went and people seem to be in harmony. You go into Woodstock, you have 500,000 people, it's just happening. I think this is kind of the things today that people are afraid to do because it seems that we are not able today to arrange bigger things without a lot of complications. And there's something that they must have done right at that time. It is something we can learn from the past, not only from the future, so to speak.
You're right. There was an innocence, and we tend to overcomplicate things sometimes. I don't know. But yeah, the 50s would be a great time period for sure.
Well, I'd love to be there and pick up the guitars at that time when they were made to play. Today, all these 50s Stratocasters, Telecasters, Gibsons, they are pretty pricey,
Oh, sure.
That's the real deal to play.
3 to 5 albums that you just have to have with you. Like, say you were stranded on a desert island. 3 to 5 that you're like, okay, I've got to take these with me. What ones do you think you'd have?
That's a good one. Well, I'll tell you what. I would like to have with me on that island, I think I would like to take with me Live Wire with Albert King.
Yeah.
Live Wire with Albert King, that's a great one. And I think I want to take Allman Brothers Beginnings.
Okay.
Because that's a compilation of 2 double albums at that time. I think Allman Brothers is something that's also overlooked a lot when it comes to blues. I think it's a jam band. I think they have an attitude that I love. I love the freedom. You ask what I'm missing. I would also love to be in the studio in the 60s when no one was banging on saying you have to have a 3-minute hit. People went into the studio. The clock was running, that was fine, but you let the creativity flow. Why do you like this old album? Because it has an ambience over it. It's the creativity is flowing. It's beautiful. And that is hard to get today because today you have a different attitude in the music business. It changed.
Sure.
This is art, Art is a thing that changes all the time. I would take a double album by Allman Brothers, one called The Beginnings. I would take Live Wire from Albert King. And I would most probably take Electric Ladyland from Hendrix with me.
Oh, yeah. That's a good
Because one thing that really got me into guitar was this All Along the Watch coming. I said, what was that? What is this? Have you been invaded by aliens? What's going on? Hendrix playing All Along the Watchtower is like this, wow moment.
So, Andy, how can people find out information about you? Do you use social media? Do you have a website? Any of that fun stuff?
Thanks for asking. Kenny Neal's label, Boga. They were so kind to put together a link on my website that is www.andywasguitarslinger.com. And when you enter that website, there's a link. You can listen to the whole album. And if you like it, you have Spotify, Amazon, Apple, all the different applications. And you also have some very cool videos, because I made a video to each track of the album. And if they want to chat with me, I'm on Facebook, and it was Guitar Slinger, and I'm on YouTube as well.
Very cool. Well, Andy, we want to thank you very much for taking the time out to chat with us today. It's fun getting to know you a little bit better.
I'm so thankful for you having me, and I hope that I will get around and catch you in Memphis, Tennessee.
That would be awesome. Yeah, hopefully life will get back to some sort of normalcy, but yeah, that would be awesome to connect with you out here.
I'm so thankful for you having me, and I wishing everybody to, if they listen to my album, to enjoy the music and to stay safe, have a positive attitude, and we maybe have to see as a final words, a reflection what is said when we have to look backward. Maybe we should learn from the community spirit and the things that people had in the 60s, 70s, to look back and work together for the common good, that we're really going to beat this virus, because we can. We have not a choice. And that is only going to happen if we decide to work together.
Man, that's some good advice for sure. Hey, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you so much for having me, and I wish you all the best.